Welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. I am Halli Casser-Jayne. Revenge of the Turd Trump is the headline of the week, when following the not-so-perfect acquittal of Donald John Trump in last week's impeachment trial, Trump, a la Latin American dictators, began a purge of his perceived enemies, and that's just where we begin this week on the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, when I and my partner in politics, former White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, slice and dice all things politics. The podcast available at HalliCasserJayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Oh, what a week it was. Does Banana Republic mean anything to you? Here we go. Hello, Matthew Cooper. It's been one hell of a week that seems like 2,974 billion weeks since last we spoke. Whoa, I'm exhausted. So here's where I want to begin, though, with you. Listen to this. I'm so coffeeed up this morning, and Trump revved up. I'm not even allowing you to say good morning or hello, so I apologize. Right. But here's where I want to go. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
February 5th.
Yeah.
Trump's acquitted. February 6th. Trump uses the National Prayer Breakfast and that weird thingy-majiggy, thing press conference that he had afterwards, to promise vengeance. On the 7th, right? He starts, quote unquote, firing his witnesses, disappearing them, right? February 11th.
Right.
4 career officials resign in protest to Trump's intervention in the sentencing of his longtime fixer, friend, Roger Stone. So it seems to me, and I'm surely not alone, and I'm sure you'll agree, that Trump's acquittal was actually the Republicans' green light for Trump to take a wrecking ball to democracy. Let's start here. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know if they intended that, but that's the effect. He is, settling all family business, to quote Michael Corleone, and, Vindman was Mo Green, and, he's taking care of all his vengeance in 1 week. So it's, I suppose it wasn't totally unexpected, but it's still kind of shocking.
To me, what's really shocking above and beyond all of it is the fact that no matter how bad it gets, and we need to discuss what just happened with Roger Stone, which is where we're going with this, is that even at this point, the Republicans are just standing with this guy no matter what he does. No matter what threat he is to the Democratic Republic that we used to have, and I'm giving it a past tense because in my mind, that's where it is. Pentagon officials are even quiet now. Everybody's quiet. Everybody's scared to death. Why is everybody afraid of this guy? They get rid of him and they're fine. They play this game, they get rid of him, they're going with him. Am I missing something here? My voice is going up too many octaves. But you see what I'm saying?
No, I hear what you're saying. Well, look, I think, I can't explain the motivations of his allies. I think a lot of people are going along because they think, well, he's worth the trouble. He's doing other things I like, and we'll just get through this. I think others are afraid to kind of take a stand. I'm surprised more people don't resign who are upset. If you've ever lost a job, it's not fun, but it's, you can live through it. So I'm a little surprised people are so reluctant to do that. And
can we talk about senators? When you just said lost a job. I just want to put that to senators and to Congress people, period. It's not a job. It's not a job. They're elected officials by the American people to do their work for them, to legislate for them, to take care of them. I do not understand this when becoming a member of Congress meant you have a new job. You do not have a job. It used to be a calling, by the way. I think part of all of this that's going on is we're not defining things properly anymore in this country. It's not.
Well, that's a fair point.
It's not a job.
No, it's not a job.
It's not a job. And there are terms to it for reasons, that the founding fathers were smart enough to think about or whatever. They're not working for Trump. They're working for the American people. I think that point is not made enough. We will move to Roger Stone and what's going on with that, because I think that encapsulates everything that we're going to talk about today.
Right. Big mess.
Big mess. I would like you, because you're so good at succinctly telling the story, much more succinctly than I am. Tell us what happened this week with Roger Stone, the Justice Department, and Trump.
Right. Well, Roger Stone, the president's longtime friend, to the degree Trump has friends, and political advisor. Stone goes all the way back to working for Richard Nixon. Roger Stone, some time ago, was convicted on a number of counts in federal district court in Washington. So the Department of Justice, after he was convicted, issued a sentencing memo, which is common, and they suggested something on the high end of the guidelines that judges use for different crimes, was something close to 9 years. And so it was on the higher end of what's allowed. And then, Trump got in the middle of it. He said, this is terrible injustice. He tweeted about it. He talked about it. He whined about it. And, lo and behold, the next day, the top Justice Department officials overruled the career prosecutors and then sent a document to the court saying, the earlier request for 9 years was wrong, and we don't want as much time for Roger Stone served. And, people were pretty alarmed that, Trump had intervened in a court case. And, on behalf of a friend, it just seemed one more norm that he had blown right through. And so that's where we stand. And then the prosecutors who had recommended the higher sentencing, one by one, they either quit the case or they resigned entirely from the Justice Department, which is, virtually unprecedented. And that's where we stand. We're still waiting to see what the judge will do, but it's clear Trump intervened in a way that's just, unheard of and very unsettling.
And Attorney General Barr did his bidding, as he's been doing all along.
Attorney General Barr got right in on it.
Can't not mention his name. I want to make the point that Roger Stone was convicted by a jury of his peers of 7 felonies. Seven, including witness tampering and obstruction of Congress. Gee,
absolutely.
That sounds familiar to me. Page out of Trump, obstruction of Congress. Witness tampering meant he actually threatened one of the people. That guy's name, I always forget his name. It's a weird, Randy. Whatever.
I know who you mean.
Yeah. So, these are not small charges. What's interesting to me is that this is the first time that Trump has really gone to bat for one of his cronies who's wound up in jail. He certainly didn't do this for Manafort. Flynn is kind of floundering out there, and that's getting to be another obstruction case with the Attorney General. But he's really going to bat for Stone, which tells me Stone knows, and Michael Cohen, who we just wrote off. So it tells me that Stone, he knows, if put into the pokey. We haven't used that term in a long time, but if he were to put that in,
you don't hear pokey a lot.
No, that's my favorite word. But
clink,
the clink. There you go. But he's going
the big house.
The big house. He's going for to save Stone. So you got to know that Stone knows stuff that nobody else knows, and he also knows that Stone probably is the weakest of all the bunch. By the way, Stone, for those of you who may not know, has a huge tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back.
Right.
And though Nixon never got into jail because he resigned, he will finally go to jail should Stone go to jail. And Stone's going to go to jail. It's a question of how long he's in for.
Yeah, I believe the judge is going to.
And this judge, by the way, has been she's pretty interesting. Poor her. She's been in the middle of all of this from the get-go because his cases keep coming to her. And her name is Judge Amy Berman Jackson. But I think that she's between a rock and a hard place on this. My heart goes out to her in one sense because.
Well, sure, if she lowers the sentence from what the Justice Department originally recommended, people might say she capitulated. If she goes along with it. They might say she just did it to spite Trump. I mean, it cast doubt on part of what Trump did that was so destructive was not only just helping a crony, but he now cast doubt on the integrity of the whole system,
Yeah.
Instead of people having confidence the judge ruled with impartiality, now people are going to say, well, did she do this because of this? And, I mean, this is one of 100 reasons why, presidents don't do things like this. I think it's interesting. I mean, let me ask you, I mean, it's interesting he hasn't pardoned Stone, right? Like, why are we going through all this?
Oh, because he's building the case to pardon Stone. That's why we're going through all of this.
You don't think he could have just gone?
No, not in an election year. I think it would have been really tough. And I think with everything that happened with impeachment and everybody coming down on him, I am sure his advisors had said to him, that may be a bridge too far at this moment, at this time. So that's why I think this whole thing has been a setup. The court's wrong. Justice is wrong. The prosecutors are wrong. It's all the typical Trump, throw the mud at it and destroy the thing to do what he wants to do. So that's my reason for thinking that he did what what he's really up to. But again, I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's D, all the above. What I was going to say was about Judge Jackson, who has gone up against Stone already in her court, because if you recall, he put some crap up about her on Twitter. And he
it was like a picture of her in crosshairs.
Exactly. And then when she said no more Twitter, he went on Twitter anyway until she had to shut him down completely. So I don't think she has she probably knows more about what a creep he is than anybody. So she has that on her side in whatever it is that she decides to do. I also think if I were sitting as the judge in all of this, I would come down on him hard now. I wouldn't go the other way, because she's not only speaking to the court in terms of honoring what a jury of his peers found, but she's also saying, do not mess with justice. And any president who wants to do that, it will be this bad for who it is you're trying to protect. So I don't see how she doesn't come down on the full recommendation, and Trump's going to pardon him anyway. So what the hey? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what she's going to do. What
would you do?
I could see her. Well, I haven't followed it enough to know what I would sentence him with. I think she might come in a little less than what they asked for. I mean, they did ask at the very high end. He doesn't have a criminal record. I mean, generally those things would argue against the max. So I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do.
Well, in previous
but I think it's
cases,
certainly possible she doesn't.
Well, in previous cases that have been in her court, she has notoriously come in on the lesser side on her convictions. So we'll see. But I think it is an institutional crisis, and Trump has single-handedly turned the Justice Department into a political weapon. And you got to say it again and again and again. Republicans are just turning their cheeks, including Miss Susan Collins.
Oh, yeah. The senator from Maine.
Lessons learned, Senator Collins?
Yeah. Right. She
and Lisa Murkowski, by the way, put out a weird one, too. Did you see hers?
I didn't see hers. What did she say?
She said this doesn't look good, but. In other words, they're all walking the fine line down the center. They just can't. Well, Collins actually got pretty verbose about it in the beginning, and then she backtracked. And so my guess is she got a call from the White House. You want money from me to help you with your campaign? You want me to help you with your campaign? Shut up. And she shut up. So.
Right.
Whatever. Now, I want to talk about the Dems in this, Matt, because.
You're mad at the Dems. That's my guess.
So after the acquittal, there was radio silence on the part of the Dems for all intent and purposes. Okay. Lick your wounds, whatever. I, at that point, would have gotten more crazy. I would have gone, well, because I'm a pretty aggressive kind of gal, I would have gone full steam ahead and not retreated. But I have to say that Bill Barr says he's going to come in to testify before Nadler's Judiciary Committee on March 31st, Matt.
Right.
March
Any
31st.
day now. He's coming in.
March 31st is another century in the world we live in today. Are they kidding that they let him get away with this? Are they kidding? Why didn't they just issue a subpoena? Get your butt up here tomorrow. What's the matter with Democrats and subpoenas? What? Help.
Well, I find it hard to disagree with you. I mean, it seems to me they could have really pushed him to come sooner. That's a long time to wait.
So what?
And let's see if he actually shows up.
He's not coming. He's not
blown
coming.
off all these subpoenas.
He's not coming. What is you need to explain this to America. Explain it to your friend Halli. Please explain this. I don't understand. What is the matter with this party? What? I mean, they should, on the impeachment issue, if they had done this months before, it would have been a different outcome. If they had done this a year before, when it first came up, when there were first problems, if they had done it then and not hemmed and hawed, which you knew I was saying, they're hemming and they're hawing, and I was ticked off at Nancy. Well, finally, but they never go full bore. They never get into the ring.
Wait, do you think they should have impeached before the Mueller report?
No, right after the Mueller report. Right, that was almost a year ago.
I don't know. It kind of landed like a cotton ball. I'm not sure.
No, because they had you remember what the Mueller report said? He's not exonerated here. There's obstruction of Congress here. There's obstruction of justice here.
Well, I think they knew from their internal polling and public polling that it just wasn't good.
You can't go with polling. You keep going with polling. You keep tiptoeing. You can't beat the guy. You're not going to beat the guy. And it's not beating the guy. It's pro-democracy. It's pro the republic. I need to say that over and again. Boy, I'm going to rant today. Do you mind?
Why should today be different? I can't.
I'm saying to you, they're feckless. They put their one foot in. It's like they do the hokey pokey. That's what the theme song for the Democratic Party should be. You got your right foot in, you got your right foot out, you got your right.
You're saying they're only going halfway.
They do everything. Right. Listen, my great achievement today was to hear you say they should have, what's with the subpoenas? They should have been subpoenaed. I mean, when Matt goes that far, folks, they should have been issuing subpoenas. So there you go. I mean, that's where it is. Yeah.
Well, here we are, right? Like, he got acquitted, and so he's off to the races. Just imagine what it'll be like if he's reelected.
So here's what scares me, okay? Because here's what we're seeing happen here, and then I'm going to get very serious for a minute here. Not that I'm not always serious, but I'm going to get more serious. You and I grew up in a time we vaguely remember Fidel Castro and what happened in Cuba. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't just come out of nowhere, Castro. And I can go back to my days in Salvador and Nicaragua and what have you. These strong-arm guys don't come out of nowhere. They gain power bit by bit, piece by piece. Hitler. It's what's happening here.
To use a subtle analogy, yeah.
Well, you know what? Everybody's saying don't use Hitler because and what Hitler got to was a horror, and it's a terrible, and not to be compared. I'm Jewish, you're Jewish. I mean, both of us have, another point of view on it. But it's not wrong to say, how do these kind of horrors gain power? Trump does it one tweet at a time, and people turn their back one tweet at a time. And I don't think this is anything small, and I think that we are really in a situation right now where the Democratic Republic truly is under siege. And there seems, because the way that they're doing it is to go after judiciary, to go after Congress and separation of powers. Matt, you can't stop him.
I'm not disagreeing,
You can't stop him.
No, look.
And let me say the ballot box either yesterday, Twirl Girl from Tennessee.
Senator Marsha Blackburn.
Three different attempts to pass legislation to stop interference in our elections. And she gets up there. No, because that's the last final control of power. Their line, stop him at the voters' booth, is meaningless at this point. There's no way to stop the bad guys from getting in and playing with the election. Come on. Call it, is it a coup? I don't know what you call it, but there's no way to stop it. And the Democrats are not stopping it. Talk to me.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a little banana republic. You know, you sort of expect him to like be wearing a military uniform with like a feather or something.
He is. Did you see what happened the other day? Can we stop for a second there? Did you see all of his people, his son, Lindsey Graham? They're all appearing wearing these jackets a la Coco Chanel made the uniforms from the Nazis. Now they have hats and a jacket that they're all appearing in on TV. Have you seen that? Are you aware of that?
I have not seen that.
Yes.
I am not aware of that.
Yes. It looks like, do you remember the George W. Bush Sr. and Bud W. wore it on 9/11, that little short working man's kind of navy blue jacket that has the seal of the president, whatever it kind of looks.
Oh, yeah, those things.
Okay,
yeah.
that's now.
Like
that's
a little
now
light outdoor thing.
That's this year's prop.
Right.
Okay, now for those who don't know, in World War II, the very, very famous Coco Chanel, whose line of clothing still exists today, you know, with new people doing the design, who was a Nazi sympathizer, was supposedly hired by Hitler to make the uniforms for the... And that became part of their intimidation. And if you saw the movie Jojo Rabbit, which I tell everybody they must see, this little boy...
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh.
I have not seen it.
Killer film. The little kid is, you know, been indoctrinated into Nazism, you know, one of the Hitler youth. And, you know, it's all in the accoutrements and the uniform that he wears and the Heil Hitler sign. Trump allegedly keeps Mein Kampf next to his bed and reads that famous chapter on how to control the media. I am telling you, Matt, I had to stop you there because the red hats, now the jacket, this is all premeditated crap. I digress. I'm sorry. Needed to say it. We were talking about how to stop this. We're in a it's a definite could be. We're something's going on here that can't be stopped. Talk to me. We're a banana republic. We are a banana republic. There is no difference.
I don't know if we are, but Trump acts like we are. And, you know, he just has no, I mean, look, he's just got no sort of distinction between like private interest and public interest. You know, he's just, they're all one and the same for him.
Does this not scare you?
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
Do you think, like I think?
I mean,
how do we stop him? Can we stop him? Do you think that?
Well, I think, I do worry about all of it, about, Republican capitulation to him. I worry about the courts. I worry about the other institutions and guardrails that are supposed to, check him. I worry about his mental health. I worry about a lot of things.
Okay, because I needed to hear that. I wanted to know that I'm not the only nutcase out there. Not a nutcase. The only person out there who is truly frightened by all of this. And I wonder when you see people responding in the same way over and over and over again, the opposition party, if you will, does seem incredibly feckless. And I wonder if there's a plan in place should he, as Bill Maher has insisted all along, if he's elected or he's not elected, he will never leave the White House. What's plan B here? And you start to see the commentators, who come out of Justice Department and what have you, absolutely losing their cookies about this. But, they're talking on Twitter and maybe on CNN. Who's listening? I think we are in a very scary place, and I don't think we should be treating any of this like this is to be dealt with in a normal manner. He does something crazy and we respond by following the rules. He's breaking the rules. I think the Democrats need to start breaking some rules just because they don't have a choice. John Kelly, the revered at one point John Kelly, came forward this morning former chief of staff who left under not such happy circumstances. And although during the impeachment trial said, kind of went along with, that's going to be in the book that we may never see. Bolton. Supposedly due out in March. Bolton said bolted. There's no words from him. And said this morning that, Vindman heard an illegal order on the Trump Ukraine call, and I was worried, and we were all worried, and this is not normal, and he's unleashing. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'm glad Kelly said it. I mean, he's, he hasn't really spoken out against Trump, even though we know they didn't get along. And, he facilitated a lot of bad things during his tenure there. But, it's always welcome when someone, from the administration speaks out. So, in that sense, it's good. It's also like, it's a one-day story. I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, well, in the light of everything else that's going on, it's interesting that he did it now. And that's the thing. They all do it after they need to be doing it. That's what's so weird about it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Why they don't come through. So that takes us to this, Matt. We know who Trump is. We know he escaped conviction. We know, I think we're going to call this show Revenge of the Turd, by the way.
Right.
And in the midst of all of this crazy, we are in election season. So first Dems are looking for a candidate. They're shopping for a candidate. First, they have the debacle that was Iowa. We discussed that last week. And now we have the New Hampshire primary. In the whitest of white states, by the way. I love that for the first primary. They did have record turnout, unlike Iowa. And here's what we were left with, which is something that I think is kind of interesting. Bernie sort of won it, right?
Right.
New Hampshire left us with Bernie and Liz votes. The progressive wing of the party only got 35% of the vote. And if you put Pete, Amy, and Joe in, the moderate wing got 53% of the vote. Bernie didn't get near what he got last cycle. So Bernie won on his home turf, if you will. He definitely took the whole thing away from Liz. Ta-ta, Liz. I've got some jam for you for your toast. But I love the fact that the moderates got 53% of the vote. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think this question going forward about whether Bernie has a natural ceiling, can he pull out majorities in different states? He did that in 2016, and he might be able to do that again in some states out here. But I think, I agree. There's a lot of strength for more mainstream Democrat to beat him. The question is, as long as they say divided between Klobuchar and Buttigieg and Biden if he survives the next couple of weeks, or Bloomberg when he really enters the race, we'll see how long they all stay in, or whether they coalesce around someone.
You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Thursdays, 3 p.m. Eastern at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, on all your favorite apps. You'll find the podcast on your Alexa device, too. Just say, The Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. So I want to talk about this. First of all, let's talk about Bernie, because to me, he's a page out of Trump. He's got his Bernie bros like Trump has his MAGAs, and they play the same intimidating game worse than the MAGAs. Now he says he won't release his medical records. Thank you, Mr. Trump, for setting a precedence there. The guy just had a heart attack 2 months ago. I think America should be knowing what kind of shape he's in.
Right.
Right. No, I'm not going to give you my records. I don't need to give you my records. And, he's got the socialism tag on him. I mean, that's Bernie. And, what are we going to yin yang? Is that what we're going to have? We're going to have a ping pong game. We're going to have a right wing lunatic, Republican president, go to left wing lunatic Democratic president. I mean, that's where we are. So can we get past Bernie for a second and go to Pete? Imagine a gay married mayor coming in second. Who would have thought it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago? Hello.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, a mayor of a very small city and young married gay man, but he's put together, a lot of things at once. I think all of his personal biographical things add up for him. I think if he was heterosexual, I don't think this would be happening. If he wasn't a Rhodes Scholar, I'm not sure this would be happening. If he hadn't been in the military, I definitely don't think this would be happening. So, a lot of things have helped him. Plus, he's pretty good at this. He's got a pretty good shtick. And, it's a remarkable thing. I mean, I think the Democratic Party can definitely nominate him. I think there may be some underestimation about, the liabilities perhaps of being a gay nominee, going into the general.
Yeah. No, I think, and, obviously with the black vote, that's going to be a problem for him too. And, younger who don't necessarily show up to polls might cotton to him, if you will, but I don't think that's true of the older voters at this point. It's interesting about him because he's very articulate. He's wonderfully articulate, and that's lovely to listen to, particularly after listening to the crap that's coming out of Trump's mouth the last 3.5, 4 years. It's lovely to have somebody who with an educated, thoughtful mind speaking. But you can't govern on that. And the thing about Pete is that when they come at him, he's not good under fire. He either retreats or he talks too much. So there is that too. Let's go to your love of your life, Amy. She finally became the flavor of the week.
Not the love of my life. You're talking about you and Steve Bullock.
Yeah. So, sidebar. Guess who got a visit from the former president last week in Montana? Mr. Bullock.
All right.
I believe that the former president was begging him to run for the Senate.
Yeah, they want him to run. And they can pick up a seat.
He still seems to be saying, I'm not going to Washington. I don't get that, because if he does that, that's the end of him in politics, because there's no way the Dems will ever forgive him for that. So, I think that's interesting, but that was a sidebar. But back to the love of your life, Amy. She finally got her flavor of the week.
I always thought there could be a surge, You
never said how long. She had to be.
Right. I mean, I got to say, 2-3 weeks ago when she wasn't surging, I thought, well, it's not going to happen.
I figured
she had to. Up until then, they said she would.
I figured she had to.
But she did. Look, she's, I think she's a good candidate. I think she's done, projected well. And look, when you're a little below the radar and you're not getting attacked, you've got some room to rise up. And, I thought she did the best of the, speeches the night of New Hampshire. She got out there pretty early and sort of, retold her biography. You don't want to use those speeches just to sort of thank people.
Right.
Thank a bunch of aldermen.
No, it's your moment. Right.
It's your moment. You got to, you're being introduced to people. And I thought she used that quite well. It was kind of emotional. And it was, I can beat Trump, which is really what Democrats are looking for. So I thought she did pretty well. I mean, her problem now is whether she can scale up quickly enough. Now you got to put together a big national operation for all these states. The money's coming in, but still it's not nearly, the huge money that helps. And, you just got to hire a lot of people really fast and, build a national corporation essentially. She's never been my favorite candidate. I like her. I think she would be a great vice president. I do. I just don't see her as presidential. There's a certain, it's not a Midwestern, because my family's in the Midwest. The Midwest is hip, slick, and cool. Just, it's in a lot of, the Midwest. I got friends out there. They're no different than my friends on the East. Things have changed. People migrate now. So I just don't see her. There's something goofy about her. There's something,
It's beyond aw shucks. Aw shucks works for men. It never works for women. I can't put my finger on the quality, Matt, that she doesn't make her presidential to me. Not to say she's not smart. There's just something missing for me. Okay, I don't know what it is, but it's missing.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, can you name it? Because it's not. She's not quite it.
Well, let's see what feels like it after a while.
Well, I know.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think the big shock that's not shocking everybody is not Joe, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's Liz. Like from the top of the
Elizabeth Warren
to the bottom of the barrel. Boom. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, when you have her picking up, 4, 5, 6% in counties,
in your home
just
turf,
2 miles from Massachusetts, yeah, in your home turf. I mean, you're barely getting the 10%. It was a very weak performance. I mean, she's just collapsed on the progressive side. A lot of those people who had maybe been Bernie supporters and then were interested in her have kind of floated back to Bernie or gone elsewhere. And, I mean, at this point, you got to wonder, where can she make a stand? Where could she win a primary? And it's hard to think of her doing that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I don't see her doing it. I really don't. I just, like I said, I've got some jam for her or jelly if she prefers for her toast, because she's done. And I'm going to take that to Joe Biden, because there are two things here that they share in common, and it's not their politics. It's that Trump went after both of them. And now, in what happened to Biden, the one story that people are not willing to write, I've seen it, I think today was the first time I actually saw a piece about it, is what happened at the impeachment hearings do to Biden? His utter collapse coincides with everything that was said by the defense team during the impeachment hearing. I'm sorry. Joe has some stuff that he brought to it. He wasn't energized. His campaign kept him, shut up. He looks like hell. By the way, he could use Trump's makeup artist to put some color in his face. He needs the orange. But the reality of it is his demise, Matt, absolutely coincides with what happened with this stuff with whatever. Now, are they not writing it because they don't want to give credit for Trump? Because God knows what he's going to do to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy? I don't know. But it isn't a story that was written. Do not tell me it did not affect people's nerves, because if the question is right now, who can beat Trump? And Trump beat the crap out of Joe, and we've got Hunter Biden in the wings. Right there. Despite the color in his cheeks not being there and his, slow, movements these days. Come on. Okay, I shut up. I will give you your moment to give your take.
Well, I guess the question is, if he collapsed during the time of the impeachment, did he collapse because the mentions of Hunter Biden and all that during the impeachment, did that give Democrats doubt about whether Biden is corrupt, or did they look at it and say Biden's not fighting back enough? He's not the best bet against Trump.
D all the above. D all the above. Never one or the other.
Or that.
But the fact is that nobody wrote about it. That's what I didn't get. Nobody wrote it, not in an op-ed, not where it could have been a defense of Biden, a defense of Biden, a pro for Biden. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. It was buried.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the irony is we had the impeachment because Trump wanted to take out Biden.
Right.
And he did take out Biden.
Exactly. Now, I'm not saying that Biden didn't hurt himself, because I think his team was terrible for him. Absolutely terrible. But I have this image in my head now, Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was not a great race. Of course it's not a great race for Biden, but I never understood why they didn't play more to his strengths. The other night when he took that question about stuttering and, so much humanity he showed. And they didn't really play to his kind of like basic kind of decency, humanity.
They didn't let him talk.
His authenticity.
He was not on one Sunday morning show for the entire time. Not one. He didn't do one appearance.
Yeah.
Okay. So then the question becomes, can he get himself out of this hole? Can he be the comeback kid?
It seems very hard at this point. I mean, he would certainly have to win South Carolina. And that gets tougher. That's still a ways away.
And also because South Carolina is going to be different than he probably thought it was going to be, because there are 6 people going into South Carolina, not 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to chip away at the African-American vote.
Right.
So, and of course that leads us to talk about Bloomberg, right? Who...
I'm in love again.
Well... don't get too attached.
I know. My history of getting attached to the wrong man is historic.
Men disappoint.
Oh my God. Look, no way anybody can say that if there's because I think, personally, I don't think that Bernie or Joe or certainly not Amy can beat Trump. I'm sorry. They can't. That's my feeling. There's a little like, I just don't see it happening. Bloomberg can, for a multitude of reasons, not just his money. That's my thought. I mean, and what a genius he is, Matt. He hasn't made any appearances. He's not been in any debates.
Right. Well, but pretty soon we're going to see,
how he does.
They're going to pull back the curtain and see who the wizard is.
Well, for sure. He comes across as a very. I actually been watching video of him to see who he is. First of all, he's incredibly relaxed under every circumstance. He's just kind of got that pedantic, kind of slow, kind of arm behind the chair back, sits in the seat. I'm in control. He really, his presence is, and I'm thinking about that presence against Trump's manic behavior at all times. And I'm going, oh, this is interesting. But he's got this stop and frisk thing that's become a problem now. And the
yes, he does.
The redlining. And I'm going to ask you before I tell you what I think about the stop and frisk. Do you think this hurts him? 'Cause I have an answer to that. Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't have a good answer to it. I think the politics and the facts suggested that he should have walked back this policy. And the fact is that de Blasio dismantled his aggressive stop and frisk, and crime kept going down. I mean, the whole argument for stop and frisk was that it was the, barrier, was the rampart that was going to keep city from descending into 1970 style chaos. And the fact is that when de Blasio started to dismantle it, it didn't really affect things. So I think the facts argue that and then the politics of the party just, it's tough. I mean, it's got all these statements about minority neighborhoods and stuff. And so I think he had to walk it back, even if it was going to make him look perhaps weak or, flip-floppy. Well, my guess is you're going to say the opposite.
Well, here's what I'm going to say about it. First of all, I think everybody at this point will forgive him just about anything if he can win for the Dems. Because in the long run, his win for the African-American community will be 10 times better than Trump, who still believes in stop and frisk and hates people of color. So, I mean, if you put the two against one another, Bloomberg and frisk, and it's my understanding that he actually rolled it back a great deal at the end. You could say, as far as de Blasio was concerned, that they had intimidated the community. And this is not racist. I mean, there are pockets, and there are blacks who live in those pockets, and Hispanics and white people also who do terrible things with guns in those communities. The stop and frisk for the short period of time might have intimidated them so that they did stop it. So by the time it was completely lifted with de Blasio, the intimidation had worked. I mean, there are a whole lot of things that you can say. fact of the matter is there are horrible things that happen in these communities, and you need to stop it. And, it's ugly. It's racially, profiling stinks. But on the other hand, getting people getting murdered to like what happened in downtown Chicago all these years, that stinks too. So I don't know. I just, he did roll it back, Bloomberg. And I just, like I said, if you compare a Bloomberg to a Trump who is still in the throes of all and believes all of this, then I say, that's the line that you get to ultimately. If you're Mike Bloomberg and you say, I learned from my lesson. This is not a good thing, but I'm not Donald Trump, who still thinks that you people should be, and which is what he did, by the way, which he tweeted back to Trump, and Trump took down his tweet because he realizes he doesn't have an argument with Mike Bloomberg because he's on the wrong side of it now, Trump. So in that respect, I don't think it hurts him, because I think people are desperate to find somebody who is going to take out Trump, and I don't think the other candidates can. But you're right, I think.
Well, we're going to find out, but look, he can't just buy this thing. He's going to have to campaign.
He says he's going to.
Do okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he is going to, but and we're going to see. He's in the debate. He's in the next debate, and they're going to be gunning for him, and we're going to see how he responds. I'm sure he's going to have some quip about Mayor Pete. He's got more people live on his block than in South Bend or something like that.
You can write.
He's gonna.
So who?
We'll see if he dominates the stage. I mean, my guess is that he's going to take a lot. He's going to take a lot incoming. And, he hasn't run in a while. He is 78. He's kind of used to being treated like royalty. I mean, we'll see if he's ready for all that.
I have to say this about him. His mind is quick, but I mean, oh my God. He's not Joe Biden's 76. He's like a 50-year-old in that mind of his. I'm astonished when I watch him now. He had I don't know where he is today. I forget what city he's in or what town he's in, but he was at a breakfast this morning and he had so many people they had to open up another shop next door. So he's starting to get crowds certainly bigger than Joe Biden's. So here we are. I mean, who's the front runner?
Who's the front runner?
Yeah. Who's the front runner?
Oh, right. Well, I don't know. Right now you'd have to say, Bernie or Pete, but, ask me in a week or 2 weeks. I don't know.
I think that Bloomberg's the front runner. That's what I think. Because I'm not talking about vote. I'm talking about you got to go with people are just not saying Bernie this, Bernie that, or Pete this or Pete that. Everybody's talking Bloomberg. Yeah.
Well, but look, I mean, there were times when they were talking Warren and Campbell. Let's see what happens.
Well, right. Flavor of the week. Oh, we have to.
There's a lot to unfold here.
There is that. A pro-Trump effort raised over $60 million. That's a huge.
Yeah, well, that story is not getting enough attention. Just the incredible Bloombergian resources he's bringing to this.
I don't think he's up to Bloomberg. No, I think that's an mistake.
No, he isn't up for. Bloomberg could spend it all if he wanted to, but Trump's going to have incredible money. I mean, this is not 2016 with a bunch of goofballs in Trump Tower and some on some folding chairs. I mean, this time it is a big, rich, slick operation.
So also let's talk about this, and that is, let's talk about the economy very quickly, because the fact of the matter is that although he's saying it's the great economy, and although, it looks like it's where he gets the most polling, 1 in 3 Americans are running out of money before payday. Most Americans don't have $400 in their bank accounts for an emergency. 52% of Americans say the country's going in the wrong direction. We can kind of apply that towards the economy. If James Carville is correct, it's the economy's stupid. The only thing that I think that Trump's got going for him right now with the voters and the economy is he has a stock market in which hardly anybody who in that middle ground have stock. 48% of Americans hold stocks? The economy.
Well, it's not a small number.
It's not a small number, but they already have money. Those aren't the people who are going to pick this election. It's the people in the middle who are the middle class, lower middle class, who are the voters that everybody needs. And so, I think there's an argument whoever gets in and hopefully soon becomes the nominee can say, this economy sucks. I mean, I don't know anybody personally who doesn't complain about money right now. Everybody I talk to, and I'm not lower class, but I'm not middle.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a trick for the Democrats because they obviously can't say the economy is perfect, but they also can't pretend they're breadlines, and the economy sucks. They have to sort of acknowledge its weaknesses and.
But they're big weaknesses.
Find other arguments.
I live in Florida with an aging population. Okay. And it's a nightmare for the old people down here. You hear that every day. How really tough it is to survive, with the cost of goods and medical care being so horrendous and, yada, 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 yada. I mean, they're getting killed on the prescription drugs, which you can't get, Mitch to move on because he's owned by the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, it's an issue and, different states, different reasons, whatever, but there's an argument for the Dems there. He doesn't own that economy argument if you're smart and, how to, whip up the frenzy over it. So I wanted to bring that up as, and I didn't want to bury in that story, Matt, that 52% of Americans, despite what everybody says, think the country's going in the wrong direction.
Right.
That's.
Well, look, I mean, I think they gotta find the right argument on that. I mean, look, you can win elections when the economy's good. Bush did it in 2000. He said, moral renewal and all kinds of stuff, and. You can win when it's good. So, you just have to kind of thread the needle a little bit.
They also have another argument with Trump, which he's hoping is under the radar. You remember, no new, read my lips, no new taxes. Was that the great line? The big lie. Trump's budget cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps and the Affordable Care Act are outrageous, absolutely, and chips for the kids.
Yeah.
And he actually said just a few days ago there are no cuts until 2021 or 22 or whatever. Because that's all he could say. He couldn't say no cuts. I mean, so again,
right.
That's the kind of thing that I think Bloomberg is really good at. To turn it around on him. Whatever. We're running out of time.
Yeah, it gives Dems a lot to work with.
Dems have a lot more to work with and whatever. Just a couple of things I want to, the one big thing I think we should talk to, and that's what's going on with Israel and the Palestinian, peace deal and yada, yada, yada. And something happened the other day. I'll let you tell the story with Amer and Abu Mazan, i.e. Abbas. Talk to me.
Well, Jared Kushner put together this peace plan that the White House rolled out, a couple of weeks back, and Netanyahu loved it because it, carved up the Palestinian territories and basically gave Israel sovereignty over the West Bank, and Palestinians, a lot happened, a lot didn't happen in the wake of that. I mean, the Arab world did not, kind of collectively shrugged. And, Palestinians leadership was upset, but there wasn't a lot of, action in the streets. This week, the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert, who had been a Likud member before he switched parties, and had proposed a very, bold peace initiative around 2007, 2008, I think. He did a little press conference with Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of Palestinians on the West Bank. And, they denounced the plan and said there was still room for a two-state solution and they should go back to where they were, in their negotiations 10, 12 years ago. I don't think it, that's not where, as you've said a bunch of times, that's not really where the Israeli public is right now.
I thought it was
tacky.
Two
big parties in Israel are right now.
I thought it was tacky of Omer to do that. number one. Number two, I happen to know that family, know his brother. They really are corrupt. I hate to say it, but they are.
Well, that's what drove him from office. He had corruption issues.
A different kind of corrupt than Netanyahu. Okay. But that being said, it was tacky. I mean, to undermine and to go and do that. I mean, that's just not the way you do things. It's just wrong. It certainly doesn't help the situation. It just tears it apart even further. And a former prime minister should have known better. That's my take on it. I wish we had more time. We'll pick it up again because it's not a story that's going away anytime soon. We got to close down, unfortunately. There are two things or three that I'm going to just throw out and let you all know that this is going on.
Go for it.
Again, Jim Jordan has been accused by a victim of that horrible sexual abuse at Ohio State of covering it up. And this is a story that people just are not following up on, and it needs to be followed up on. It's one after it never stops. He knew it needs to be, fleshed out, and we need to find out what the real story is with that. Another story that made me crazy, Matt. Barrasso, Chris Murphy, Dem, and Ron Johnson are on their way to the Ukraine to let Zelensky know that he's not a political football. I want to understand why Democrat Chris Murphy is going to the Ukraine with these two, particularly Ron Johnson. That's the kind of stupid crap the Dems do that gets them into trouble or doesn't it doesn't help. I'm sorry. To me, you got a quick thought on that?
Oh, I don't see the downside. Ron Johnson wanted the aid to go through. I mean, he did defend,
He defended Trump.
He defended Trump, but the truth is that all the documents and everything shows he was pushing for the aid to go through. He wants the aid to go through. He's got a lot of...
it's not about the aid. It's not about the aid.
Well, I understand what
fight.
You're saying. That this is...
Yeah, you got to keep it
right, but I think it also... It sends a useful message to the Russians and to the Ukrainians to show some support. And if the administration's not going to do it, then I don't think it's bad. Some members of the Senate go.
Well, maybe. Okay, I'll give you that. Melania has not been on one magazine cover as First Lady. They won't put her there. I just wanted to throw that out.
Right.
I think it's fascinating. And the last thing, I just want to throw this out. The World Health Organization says that coronavirus is a bigger threat to the world than terrorism. And on that happy note, Matt. We heard it. What was that in the background? Oh my God!
What
timing!
There's a little ambient noise here in Washington.
No, but I mean, right on the line. Like, yep.
Yep.
I mean, cases.
That's how I time it.
Oh my God, cases are up. What a mess! And pandemic. Here we go. I'm telling you, somebody needs to
wash your hands.
Yeah, like as if that's going to happen. Anyway, that's it, buddy. It's been another great week.
All right.
See good night, next time. Good night, George. I don't know why.
Good night, Gracie. All right.
See ya. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.